Hi, my name is Carol Baskin, and this is the Cat Chat Show. This week, I'd like to present to you the slideshow that I presented in Mexico City, Mexico last week to a huge press conference and members of Congress. We had been invited to Mexico City by Vanessa Fernandez Thomas and her husband, Omar Gallegos, and they had been instrumental in getting a bill passed and turned into law in Mexico last year that it made it illegal to use wild animals of any kind in a performance. So a lot of people referred to that as the circus ban, but it really went much further. The Green Party was the party responsible for passing both this law and the first Mexican law to prevent animal abuse. And they have been gaining traction in the public perception because they care about the things that people care about. There are 10 political parties in Mexico, and they have been trying to detract from the success of the Green Party. So this press conference was to show that the accusations being made that these circus tigers would end up being killed or have nowhere to go was inaccurate. The reason that Big Cat Rescue was invited to the press conference was to show how we've been very successful in running our sanctuary like a business, and in showing ways that if they build it right from the beginning and give the animals a lot of room to run and play and be something that people really want to see, that it can then be self-sustaining. So sit back and enjoy, I hope, the presentation that I gave to them in Mexico City last Tuesday. Banning the cruel use of wild animals in circus acts is happening all around the world. As those bans begin to be enforced, there is concern that the circuses will let the animals starve to death. Governments and animal rescue groups are working together around the globe to provide humane solutions that will enable the animals to live out the rest of their lives in sanctuaries. A well-run sanctuary can provide the best animal care and can support itself if careful planning goes into the creation and running of the refuge. Big Cat Rescue has been around since 1992, but it didn't get the fundraising part right until 2003. Now we generate about $500,000 over our expenses annually that we put into major improvements of the grounds and into an endowment fund to ensure the long-term care of our cats. If you do it right the first time, you save money and time. Whether it's building the cages or infrastructure or training the staff and volunteers or doing the fundraising, it will always work out better in the end if you do it right from the beginning. You only get one chance to make a good impression. Your reputation will be the most important factor in the success of the endeavor, and it only takes one bad act to lose respect. The very first thing that should be done is to neuter all of the males and implant females to prevent breeding more lions and tigers for life in cages. None of these animals serve any conservation purpose and should never be bred for life in a cage. It will limit the future cost if the government seizes the animals in place to neuter and implant them before actual confiscation. This limits the sale of these animals into inappropriate situations and would help stop the cub handling abuse. Be transparent. Even if you are doing everything right, you need to be transparent so that your supporters know. One way to be transparent is to be open to the public so they can see everything that happens. Other ways are to share the animal care via photos and videos online or webcams. In just 1 week, we can reach over 13 million Facebook fans with our message. Your finances should be just as open to the public. People want to know where and how their donations or tax dollars are being spent. Being open about it encourages more public support and limits corruption. Having outside auditors come in at least once a year to inspect the finances and animal care lets the public know they can trust you. This next video shows how we build our 2.5-acre vacation rotation enclosure, the feeding lockouts, bowl holders, guillotine doors, the safety entrances, and our roofed cages.
This is our vacation rotation enclosure. It's 2.5 acres, and all of our roofed enclosures that house our big cats are connected to this enclosure via tunnels, and they all spend about 2 weeks apiece in this enclosure. These panels that we build the enclosures out of are 15 feet long by 5 feet high. They're double galvanized 6-gauge wire, and each point is welded. As you can see here, this is where it overlaps, so we did 3 rows of wire going up. The overlap is done by 1 square, so you can see where 2 pieces of wire meet up. We've overlapped by 1 square, and we zigzag the hog rings that hold the panels together. When we're building the enclosures, we'll use these snaps to hold the wire in place, and then we'll use these hog ring pliers and 9-gauge hog rings, also out of galvanized steel, to hold the wire together. Did you see that? If you make a mistake or you're tearing apart an enclosure to make modifications, we use fence rippers that have a little point there. You grab the hog ring and twist it off. The posts that hold the wire up are 18-foot 3-inch steel pipes. They go 3 feet in the ground and are sunk in concrete. At the top there's a cap that has an angle, and that's where we attach the overhang, which is 5 feet. So the walls are 15 feet high, and then the overhang is 5 feet. The wire is attached to the posts using a galvanized steel tie wire, and then it's wrapped around using pliers. The posts are set 10 feet apart. You can only connect 2 panels of wire using these hog rings. If you get more than 2 rows of wire together, the hog ring won't reach. So when we have a seam here where 4 pieces of wire are coming together, we cut 2 squares out of this sheet and 2 squares out of this sheet. And then when you overlap them all, you only have 2 in any given connection. Any structures, platforms, den, that sort of thing that are built in the enclosure, we put at least 16 feet from the top of the platform to anywhere that there's an overhang. So it would be 16 feet from the very top to where the overhang is. In here, they're set quite farther back, but in some of our smaller enclosures, we make sure to have at least that 16 feet. This safety entrance is for our large equipment, so we can take the big lift in to do any repairs that we need to do, or the big mowers in to mow the yard. The doors are held together with these snaps, padlocks on the outside, and you have to go through this set of doors, shut them with the equipment, and then you go in the next set of doors. This is our safety entrance to go into the enclosure. It's got a padlock on the outside, snaps, holding the door shut, and the door opens out so that you have more space in the safety entrance to enter with any equipment that you need. So we always go in the safety entrance, shut the door, latch it before we enter into the enclosure through the secondary door. So attached to all of our open air enclosures, we have a roofed section that the cats get locked in if the winds are higher than 30 miles per hour. We have guillotine doors that we use to let them in and out of this area. So whenever we use the guillotine doors, we also use a secondary door to secure the cage before we enter. We normally work in pairs, so there would be a second person on the other side to catch the door and latch it shut. So between the two roofed sections that we have the tunnel to shift the animal from one enclosure to the other, and then we have the safety entrance on the other side for the keepers to enter. This is our dens, and it's got a structure inside of the same 4x4 wire with stucco wire over top of it, and then concrete work on top of the stucco. We always face the dens so that we can see inside of them from outside the enclosure. When we're ready to feed the animals, we'll shut the guillotine door to their feeding lockouts, and that way we can put the food in with the animal locked away. The lockouts are made out of the same material as the rest of the cage. And you can see we have a block for putting the food down. And then we have this cage built on the inside of the lockout for their water bowl, because they'll take the water bowls and destroy them. So there's wire across the top here to keep the water bowl pinned down. And then if we undo these snaps, we can lower this and dump the water. And then when we're ready for them to feed, we open the door. This is the stake wire we use at the bottom of the enclosures. It's 2 squares and then a row of just these points at the bottom where we cut off the horizontal bar. So we'll just take this to the bottom of the enclosure, hammer it down, and then you can see here the stake wire is hog ringed. So it's about 2 squares, which is equivalent to 8 inches in the ground. So we'll use the stake wire to help with the unevenness of the terrain. So as you can see here, the ground is pretty much level to the stake wire, but as it dips down, the stake wire is filling in that gap. All of our big cats are normally housed in roofed enclosures. They have about 2,400 square feet apiece, and their enclosures are separated into 2 sections so that we can go in one side and do maintenance while the cat's locked in the other side with the same guillotine doors. Each cat has its own 1,200 to 2,400 square foot enclosure. When we have groups of cats that live together, they'll have neighboring enclosures that are connected with tunnels in between, so they can share all the space. At the end of each tunnel are the same guillotine doors. We have all of our tigers on this side of the road, and then we have a tunnel that goes across the street that can be assembled and out into the 2.5 acre enclosure. So these are padlocked shut. We can undo the locks. Lay down the floor. Then that roofed piece comes down. And the walls move in. And then we snap it all together so the cats can travel across the street into the 2.5 acre enclosure.
Big cats will be much more relaxed and easier to deal with if they have a lot of space. We have found the minimum amount of space for each cat should be about 1,200 square feet. I had made an attempt at translating this with Google Translate, but I'm told that this is a very poor translation of what I was trying to say. But as you can see from the diagram, the idea is to have a 1 or 2 acre rotation area in the middle, and then attach 16 to 20 of the smaller enclosures being at least 1,200 square feet each per cat. And then they would all be connected to the vacation area in the middle with a tunnel, and on the back side where you see the pink, that would be the safety entrance for each enclosure. Doing it this way is much smarter than the way that we had to do it, because we already had roads in place and we needed to move cats to the vacation area across the roads, but you can make the tunnels much smaller and much easier to manage without having to build the tunnels each time. You just open a guillotine door or a pair of guillotine doors and are able to switch the cats in and out. Cats are solitary, and even though they may be forced to live in groups where they are now, they will fight, steal food from each other, and cause medical emergencies. Unless the cats really love each other, they should be housed separately. Even if they do love each other, there must be a way to separate them at feeding time. Shared walls are just asking for trouble, because anything that fits through can get chewed off, like ears, tails, and paws. It is also an invitation to fight, so we never have shared walls. We use 4-inch by 4-inch welded wire fence panels that are 5 feet tall and 15 feet long, double galvanized to prevent rust. Tigers and neutered or spayed lions don't dig. They prefer soft earth, grass, and bushes to concrete or rocks for floors. A 1,200 square foot cage cost us about $7,500 to build. It's up to $10,000 if you include the dens and pools that we have, but these would probably not be used in this particular situation. If you build it right, people will pay to see it. And this was the premier part of my presentation, I think, was to give the press, the public, and the Congress the ability to see how wonderful a sanctuary can be and how people would want to be a part of making sure that it was successful.
The residents of Big Cat Rescue have been having a great time enjoying the expansive new vacation rotation enclosure. Take a look.
Oh, I can feel it coming. Oh, now it won't be long before the time comes to take a holiday in the sun. Oh, I can count the days. Really, it won't be long. As soon as the time comes to pack and get away, I'm gone. Oh, yeah. I wake up every morning feeling that something's wrong.
All of the lions and tigers should be tested for contagious diseases upon arrival and vaccinated. They should be kept separate and not use the shared rotation area for the first 30 days to ensure there is no disease transmission. Good walls make good neighbors. The entire facility should be enclosed by a wall. We prefer a wall that you cannot see through, so that there is less chance of someone shooting at the cats. But whatever it is made of, it should be sufficient to keep vandals and other wildlife out. Donors provided our wall, and this is the donor recognition area in our tour waiting area. Lions and tigers are not good climbers, so if they are fed every day, they rarely have a reason to climb. But trees should be positioned in such a way that cats cannot use them to escape. Feeding them right is so important. We prefer to feed our cats an expensive prepared diet made in Colorado by AAA brand. Again, this was my pathetic attempt at Google Translation, but what I was trying to let them know is that even though we feed the very best possible diet, there are other alternatives that are still probably much better than whatever is happening with the cats now. Walmart offers sanctuaries their expired meats for free. In the US, this is managed by Quest Recycling. The downside of using this meat is that there is not a balanced diet, and those who do use it report that about 80% of what they get is too bad to feed, so there is some cost in disposing of the bad meat and wrapping.
With 65 acres and almost 100 residents, feeding time at Big Cat Rescue is a full-scale operation. We feed out approximately 2,000 pounds of meat every week. The sanctuary is split into 4 separate feeding routes: front, centre, back and outback. So this is our food prep area where the process begins every single day of the year, and this is how we do it. Interns begin prepping all the feeding routes and diets for the cats at around noon each day, and it takes several hours. Working from the feeding sheets, which list all of the cats on the property, they know exactly how much food to designate to each feeding route, which cats get different portion sizes, and if there's any special diets that need to be made up for the cats that have any issues, such as being unable to process fur and bone, or soft food diets for older cats that have minimal teeth. Our menu consists of a carnivore diet with added nutrients and minerals, beef and chicken. We also feed out whole prey twice a week, which is a great way to include all the nutrient-rich organs and bones in our cats' diets. Plus, it enriches their lives, stimulating many natural behaviours while they're in captivity. The last thing we do is prepare different quantities of a joint supplement for the feeding routes. Since many of our cats are elderly with mobility issues, we want to make them as comfortable as possible during their retirement in Florida. Once food prep is complete, keepers then close the lockouts for our tigers, lions, clawed leopards and cougars, plus a few of our smaller cats that are just a little too enthusiastic at dinner time. We also separate any cats that become aggressive with one another or steal food from the other cat. This is a lockout. As you can see, it's a smaller addition on the side of the enclosure. All the cats have at least one lockout where they can find fresh water 24/7, and it's also where we feed them every day. As their name implies, we simply lower the doors before feeding time, locking the cats out of that space. So when the feeders arrive later on, they can safely place the food on the slab without the cat being there. Then open it up and let the cat in. Feeding time is the most important part of the day to observe the cats. In the mornings we clean the enclosures and can often get a good look at them, but sometimes they're sleeping in the middle of the enclosures or they're hidden amongst the vegetation. So when they're in the lockouts, we can observe them up close from every angle. With the diets prepped and the lockouts down, all we have to do now is feed about 100 exotic cats. Feeders are assigned to each route and then we load up and head out. The sound of the food carts approaching is like ringing the dinner bell at Big Cat Rescue, and this is without a doubt the favourite time of day for the cats. All 4 routes have a laminated sheet they work from to see exactly what each cat is to be fed on that particular day, and cats on special diets are highlighted. Then the joint supplement is mixed into the carnivore diet before feeding out to the cats. All of our keepers are trained to observe the cats at feeding time. We can watch them as they walk up to their lockouts to make sure they're not limping or anything like that, and then make sure we get a good look at them all over once they're eating in the lockout. If we do observe anything wrong with a particular cat, such as limping, any external injuries such as a cut or swelling, They could be struggling to eat their food. Maybe they're not even interested in their food. We can call the route leader over to our location so they can observe them too. If possible, we video or take photos of the animals so we have a reference, and we can share them with our vets as well. Then those images and videos are kept on file for future use. On average, it takes around an hour or so to feed the entire sanctuary. At the end of each route, the senior keepers read out all of the names of the cats to make sure they've all been fed and nobody's been missed. Then, once the feeders are back at food prep, they can log any observations online so the staff and vets can see if there's any more cats that need to be observed. We then bag up and label any remaining food, check the sheet and take out food for the following day, clean all the feeding buckets, wipe down and sanitize the food carts, and sweep and mop food prep.
Taking care of 100 big cats is a job for a team of well-trained people. There is no reason to spend donor dollars nor tax dollars on salaries for keepers, because people love working with big cats so much they will do it for free. The only paid positions should be those that volunteers don't like to do, like managing the volunteers, keeping records, fundraising, the website and social sites, and outreach educational programs. The key to making sure the cats get the very best care is training the volunteers how to do things right and how to be safe.
Big Cat Rescue is the world's largest accredited sanctuary. We are home to over 100 cats, ranging from the tiny sand cat up to the largest lions and tigers. With over 100 cats here at the sanctuary, we have a lot of enclosures to clean every single day. Here's how we do it. I arrive at 7 a.m. to do my daily checks. I look at the calendar and see how many volunteers are scheduled that day and what sections they can clean. The sanctuary is split into 10 different cleaning sections. Red Shirt volunteers and interns clean the road, servals, and little back sections, which obviously house servals as well as bobcats, lynx, ocelots, jungle cats, caracals, and leopard cats. Yellow Shirt volunteers clean cougars. And the Green and Navy Shirt volunteers clean the larger cats, like our lions and tigers, leopards, and Freckles the liger.
So this is where the keepers start their day, and this is how you make a cleaning bucket.
We grab a bucket, which are actually old cat litter containers. Then we place a smaller container inside and add a small amount of bleach. This is then diluted with water. Then we grab a wire brush, a softer toilet brush, some poop picker-uppers, aka barbecue tongs, and a poop bag. Then all we need is gloves and a scraper pole, and we're good to go.
So now I know where all the volunteers are. I know they've all been trained in the sections at their shirt level. We all have radios in case of an emergency. Now all we have to do is clean over 100 big cat enclosures.
The first thing we do is walk the entire perimeter of the enclosure. When we're doing this, we locate the animal. Once we've observed the animal and had a chat, or not, we check the cage, make sure no tree limbs have fallen overnight. In the larger open-air enclosures, we check all the hot wires to make sure they are still working, clear any brush that is in our way, take out any weeds or mushrooms that are in the enclosure, and basically run our eyes over the entire enclosure to make sure all is well.
Then we get to the poop spotting. This could be very tricky, and we always have to remember that these are wild animals and can be extremely fast. The smaller species like to bury their poop, which makes it harder for us to find. The cougars bury their poop too, but you can safely find those piles. The tigers, lions, and leopards don't bury theirs, but you really have to be on your toes around these cats. Some cats hate particular cleaners, and they're always looking at you and working you out. Sometimes they want to play with the scraper. If this is the case, we can shut them off into the other section of their enclosures, get their poop out, and then let them back in. There's also other hazards you have to watch out for.
And then we get to the lockouts. This is where the cats are fed and where they can find fresh water any time of the day. And this is where the cats make even more mess. So as their name implies, we can close the door entry, locking the cats out, and then safely pick up all the food scraps and concentrate on what we're doing. We empty the water bowls, scrub, replace, and fill. Then use the wire brush to really scrub the food slab and thoroughly rinse everything off. Then we can open the door back up so the cats have access to their lovely clean lockouts.
When all the sections have been cleaned, then the volunteers double check each other. This way we have a fresh set of eyes looking at the cats, their enclosures, lockouts, and of course checking for poop that may have been deposited later or missed.
Then, when we're done with all the cleaning, we log our observations online, like if there was any food left over, if we noticed anything wrong with the cats, or if the enclosures need any maintenance, so the operations manager is aware. Then we can take a well-deserved break.
Big Cat Rescue has an annual budget of $2.7 million and only 14 paid staff. None of the paid staff do animal care work. Even our vets donate their services. We have about 100 big cats. We have 88 to 100 volunteers and 12 to 22 interns at any given time. They do all of the cleaning, feeding, medicating, and much of the grounds work and maintenance. They also guide all of the tours. We always have more applicants for our intern program than we have space. If you can provide housing and food for interns, you can keep full-time help on site at all times. Our interns work 5 to 6 days a week. Volunteers must donate at least 4 hours each week to even be in our program. When you're laying out the facility, it's important to think, how will this be used later on? Right now, we're talking about building 1 or 2 of these vacation rotation areas. So here you can see there's a number of them that have been laid into the grid here. But as these are being created, we want to be sure that there is plenty of room to drive trucks back to each one of the enclosures in case there is an emergency or something that we have to deliver that's very large. We want to make sure that the tour path for the visitors is wide enough that you could comfortably have 20 people in a group of a tour, that they could see the animals and maneuver around the animals with a barricade that keeps them at least 5 feet away from the animals. So this is a really important part of laying out any sanctuary, is to figure out where all of your infrastructure is going to go and where your roads and tour paths are going to go, and then build the cages in such a way that you don't have to do a lot of the things that we've had to do to make up for the fact that we did not plan this out ahead of time. We only allow guided tours of Big Cat Rescue in groups of up to 20 at a time, but if you can completely cage in the public, like a cage wire tunnel, then you could allow people to roam at their own pace, as long as you have sufficient security to keep them from harassing the animals or throwing anything in the cages that might be dangerous if eaten. Big Cat Rescue is able to charge a lot for our tours, and every couple of years we raise our prices. The reason we do that is we want to continue to be a sanctuary first and foremost for the animals, so we want to keep it very tranquil here. But because of the way that our cages have been laid out in ways that did not accommodate a huge amount of visitors, we have to keep the numbers down. So we charge $36 for our very cheapest tour package, which is a 1.5 hour guided tour, and $125 for our most expensive tour package, which is the Keeper Tour. And I think that Mexico can charge these same kinds of prices relatively because people will want to come and see this from all around the world. A big portion of the number of people that visit at Big Cat Rescue are tourists and people who come here from other countries. There's a perceived value that if the price is high, then it must be something worth seeing. So never undersell yourself, because that money is what enables you to take better care of the animals. We are able to charge these kinds of prices because we are only 15 minutes from Tampa International Airport. Acreage here costs about $100,000 an acre, but it's because of our close proximity to the city and the airport that we have the potential for so many visitors. The next video was from 6 years ago, but it shows you what a visitor sees on a feeding tour and a keeper tour. These are the more higher price tours, but it will show you that it's an experience that people can't get anywhere else without abusing animals.
The coolest things at Big Cat Rescue, which a lot of people don't even know about, is our feeding tour. And that's when you come out to the sanctuary at feeding time and you actually get to go along with the keeper who feeds the big cats. What's cool about it, if you've only been here on a day tour, you've only kind of seen the cats when they're lounging around or just sort of relaxing. They are completely different at feeding time. That's when they truly come alive and you get to see how they just tear into that food, see a little bit of excitement in their life. Feeding time is the best time of the day for these guys, and they really show it. So if you've never seen a tiger crunch through a chicken bone, or if you've never seen a lion just destroy a turkey leg, it's something really cool. We do that on Friday and Saturdays. If you've never been here for that, definitely come check it out, and here's a little sneak preview.
Mexico has proven to be a world leader in ending the abuse of wild animals. This next step can be a good source of income and will be an example to other countries, including the U.S. This shows some of the things that are happening in the ports, and we are hoping that the Congress will interpret the law that they have already passed, which bans the use of wild animals in performances, to protect the cubs that are being ripped from their mothers and used as pay-to-play props, mostly at the ports and in the little roadside zoos across Mexico. This video was done by a fan of Big Cat Rescue, but I think they did an amazing job, and as I said, they used actual footage from Mexican ports.
Forest shadows of your dreams, alone in truck stop, steel cage lair. Humans laugh at your blank stare. Rescue me, rescue me. Tiger, tiger, I still gleam. Forest shadows of your dreams. I lost jungle once in our command. There's no place left to make a stand. Now all are caged throughout the land. It's all steel forest, locked by human hand. Lion cub, oh cuddly toy, look at how man destroys, grown too big to bring us joy. You'll be sold to macho boys. Rescue me, rescue me. once in our command. There's no place left to make a stand. Now all are caged throughout the land. It's all steel forest, locked by human hand. Tiger cub, oh, cuddly toy. Look at how man destroys. Grown too big to bring us joy. You'll be sold to macho boys. Rescue me, rescue me. Tiger, tiger, I still gleam in forest shadows of your dreams. Our lost jungle, once in our command. There's no place left to make a stand. Now all are caged throughout the land. It's all steel forest, locked by human hand. Oh, won't you rescue me? 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 Oh, won't you rescue me?
Thank you for joining us on this Cat Chat show. I hope you will tune in for future episodes to see what happens next in Mexico.